Hello, groupies, and welcome back to the edition of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit 3, which is put things first. Hello, Colleen.
Hello, everyone. Lovely to be here again.
Yes, it's good meeting weekly.
It is really good.
So we well, I've got the time management queen here, right? Because obviously she did that workshop, we did that video on how to get your time back, which is a good one to watch if you want to go and find that on the website. It'll be under Colleen and under the healthy business section, but it's good for your personal life as well. So it's not all business, the same as these 7 habits of highly effective people. It's good for personal.
Yeah, and I think, you know, with time management ideas, we might have all heard them before, but sometimes we need a refresher.
And what is time management? How do we manage our time? I think there's so many different tools, and it's a hard concept, or it's something hard to keep you focused on.
It is, but that's where this one, the 3rd habit, put first things first, is a really simple way of understanding how we are spending our time and where we're losing our time.
And yeah. I think that's the key, isn't it? Where we're losing our time.
Yeah. And you know, we mentioned this before in our previous discussion about how we give away our time to other people's objectives. So instead of, you know, investing the time in the things that are important to us and to have our visions come to life, we get caught up in those phone calls and those emails and doing things that other people find important, but they may not actually be important in getting us to our goal.
Yeah. And I guess that's another video in itself, is our needs, you know, compared
to needs and boundaries. Yeah. Note that one down.
So how he explains it, or the best tool, which we'll be spending our time talking on today, because it's a tool that you guys can use in your work or home life or personal life, of how to prioritize your time and how to manage it. So he has 4 quadrants, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. And just stepping back before we get into the quadrants, I just wanted to mention, just reinforce habit 1 and habit 2 and their connection to habit 3. Habit 1 is we are the creator. So we're in charge of our life. We're in charge of the choices we make and the responses we have. And habit 2 is our mental creation. So where we visualize what we want, you know, our goal to look like, you know, what we want our life to look like, you know, what an outcome looks like. One of the examples I think we referred to in the last habit 2 was the building a house. You know, you wouldn't just build it without having a clear vision before you start.
Yeah.
So habit 2 was the mental creation, and now habit 3 is the action. So this is us doing. This is the physical creation. So that just to give us a bit of a foundation for what habit 3 is.
Yeah, perfect. And it's that, putting first things first, and it's what's the next step, or to achieving. So we are going to use the little whiteboard that I have on this lovely Zoom. And I had a bit of a play around before. First time I've used it, so bear with me. So let's just...
Yeah, we thought doing this way is a bit more interactive, and I don't know about anyone else, but I'm very visual. I like to see things.
Yes, me too. Yeah, is it? Oh, good.
It does. Yeah, you've done well.
It's got them off to the side, so yeah. So we've got your different areas, and you can put your different tasks, or where we spend most of our time.
So quadrant 1 is so where we talk urgent, that's the crisis, you know, the putting out the fires, the answering the phone, the deadline-driven projects in quadrant 2, the urgent but not important tasks to prevent a crisis. So quadrant 2 is our most important quadrant.
Yeah, it's that real setup, and keeps that, because the more that you're in quadrant 2, the less you're going to probably be in urgent, because you should have everything sort of ticking along nicely.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to avoid having to put out fires because we're going to have the systems and the resources in place. And also relationship building comes into not urgent but important, because you know, we all know how important relationships are in our families, to, you know, make that a priority with our partners and our children, and also in the workplace, building our connections.
Yeah.
And then in quadrant 3, we've got some emails. So I don't know about you, but I do tend to, this is one area I tend to get sucked into, responding to emails. I have to pull myself up and actually go, no, that can be addressed at a later date. Yeah. Instead of like that instant having to, you know, respond to it. So also in the urgent but not important will also come at some meetings.
Yeah.
Yep. And pressing matters is something they have on here as well. And we've got interruptions.
Yeah.
Is there anything else there you can think of, Nikki, that would come in under not important but urgent?
And this is where people get a bit confused, don't they? Here that they think it's urgent and important. Like,
yeah. So the things that are in quadrant 3 are the things that you need to deal with it at some stage, but they're not necessarily crisis, you know, that you need to address now. So those emails and those phone calls, you know, you could let the call go to a message and deal with that at a later date, or a later time.
For a lot of people is to let the phone ring, you know.
It's a hard one to let the phone ring. But how often, even if you go into a shop and you've been waiting in line and the phone rings and the person that rings gets all this attention and the queue continues building in the shop, instead of, you know, the politely asking if they can hold while you know, serve the people that were there before the call.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's when you actually realise that these things that we actually think are important but not, and can put them in their place where they're needed. So obviously they need to be addressed, but if you're doing something, you know, if you're spending all your time there, then you have to sort of go, okay, what am I doing, and where do I need to cut back?
Yeah.
and work on the things that are important. So then we've got not urgent and not important. Not important,
yeah. So this is where we have the busy work. I mean, how many of us spend time just being busy?
Yeah. And what is busy?
Busy tidying the desk?
Yeah.
Busy deleting my emails.
Yeah. I have to clean my emails up. You know, that takes priority over everything else. Yeah. Well, it does when they start bouncing back.
Well, that then actually does move up the scale, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that would probably be not urgent but important work to maintain your inbox.
Yeah, that's right. So then it doesn't get to that crisis point.
So it never gets to crisis point.
Well, that's where it goes, to that crisis. Yep.
Yeah. Time wasters. Oh, when someone else has got nothing on their plate and they call up and you think it'll be a quick call and you're still there half an hour later.
Yeah.
How much power do we give over to those people?
I know. Yeah, absolutely.
And pleasant activities. So not urgent but not important. So pleasant activities could be a nice long lunch. I mean, we all love a long lunch.
All right.
But that's not necessarily urgent or important.
Well, you know, it's networking, right?
Well, that's right. So if we can count that in networking, we move that straight into quadrant 2.
Yeah, that's right.
If we're going to have beneficial outcomes from that long lunch, let's move it to number 2.
I was going to say, well, relationships would probably, and we could probably put networking near that too.
Yeah.
Include that in there.
Yeah, for sure.
So there, yeah, you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say about some of the results of spending your time in any one of these quadrants, or too much of your time. So in quadrant 1, you know, the results are stress, burnout, and that always running around fixing problems.
Yeah.
You're the person on the other end of the call. Everyone calls to solve the problem. Some of the results are, now these are lovely results: balance,
Balance, yes.
control,
You have control, yeah.
fewer crises, and discipline.
My screen runs out, so if I can't, I'm not seeing the ends of what I'm writing here.
Quadrant 3,
Yeah.
short-term focus. See goals and plans as a waste of time. Shallow and broken relationships.
You're not focusing on them.
Then where are we now? Quadrant 4. It's irresponsible lives is what they're saying there, and leads to dependence on others and fired from jobs.
Yeah.
So they're just a few of the results that Stephen Covey shares if you spend too much time in quadrant 4.
There we go.
So Nikki, where do you think you spend your time?
Well, I spend my time in a bit of everything. I think I probably do spend my time in quadrant 3, and yeah, you kind of get a bit confused thinking that it's important, urgent and important, but it's urgent but not important. So and yeah, trying to set those boundaries around other people because they think it's important, but it's not necessarily can wait. So yeah, I tend to answer the phone when I can, answer emails, you know, to get, otherwise I'll probably, if I don't get to that, I'll forget about it, or I, you know, it's kind of like yeah, I think it's that ding in your head that you just do, but and put aside the things that are important.
Yeah, we sort of go on autopilot, don't we, with, you know, just that response, you know, without actually, you know, stopping and breathing and working out, you know, thinking about, okay, what quadrant does that actually go into?
Yeah.
You know, instead of responding to everything as an urgent, you know, actually really looking at it and going, okay, well, where does that actually sit?
Yeah.
You know, removing the stories you tell yourself, where does it actually fit? Yeah,
and I think understanding the different quadrants, and I don't know, would you suggest that if you had your to-do list, which we would write out, is putting them in each of the quadrants, and then I guess it's spending, you know, if you're spending the majority of time in quadrant 2 and allowing, you know, 80%, 70, 80% of your time in quadrant 2 and allowing that 20% for those urgent things that come up. Because if you're not working on quadrant 2, you're not getting to where you want to go. Like I said, you're just spotting out fires.
That's right. And when we're not going to actually decrease what's in the quadrant 1 and quadrant 3 if we're not spending the majority of our time in quadrant 2.
Yeah, and that's where I think he sort of had mentioned too, when you're spending a lot of your time in quadrant 2, the things in quadrant 1 reduce as well, because you're not having to put out those fires, you're not having those deadlines driven. Well, you probably have been working on that through quadrant 2, that it'll never get to that deadline.
So that urgent stage,
Kind
yeah.
of reminded me when I was at high school. They had all this time to do that project, and in the last week, that's where you decided to start and finish that project.
I think we've probably, most of us, been guilty of that at some stage.
But if I just set aside, and I think I did it to every project I was at school, why don't I just do a little bit each night or whatever? I had a whole term to work on it, and I've left it to the last minute.
Yeah, and is that because you thrive on the pressure? You do your best work under pressure. Is that what you told yourself? The very important thing that he brings up is learning to say no.
Yes.
Because, you know, if you
how hard is that for a lot of us?
Yeah, and as a born, well, maybe not a born people pleaser, but a creative people pleaser for many years, saying no was just something that I would not do. I remember when the girls were at calisthenics, and you know, they needed no one filled the roles on the committee, so you know, I was the team manager and I was the president, and you know, I wore these hats and you know, ran a business, and I was so overwhelmed. But any time anyone asked me to do anything, I would just add it to the pile of things. I just did not have it within me to say no.
And what is that? What if you said no? What did you think was going to happen?
I thought things wouldn't happen. I thought if I didn't say yes, no one else was going to do it. So I had this story that, you know, I had to do it, otherwise it just wouldn't get done. And then, of course, that leads to burnout, and nothing really happened. Like when you're so overwhelmed that you can't even think straight, that, you know, that's the result of all of that people pleasing. You know, it took me that to actually realize that I was worthy of time for me, and I didn't have to always say yes, that I could actually politely say no. I think
that's what a lot of people.
Yeah, that I'd be rude if I said no. How can I say no to this person? And because you look at other people and I was back then, I was looking at other people thinking, oh, they've got so much on their plate, I can't possibly say no to them.
Yeah. So then
was that true?
Yeah, and that's a story that you're telling yourself. And how was it that your time wasn't as important as everybody else's?
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of people actually, that's what they think. If I don't do it, that won't get done. Or
it won't get done.
Do it, I'll just do it.
And then on that same topic,
playing the victim because of that. Again, if you look at the above and below the line, you're playing the victim because of that and not taking responsibility when you could have actually said no. That other people have obviously said no because their time, they
value their time.
They value their time, and they couldn't fit that in. But you're sort of saying, well, it's okay for you to sacrifice your time above everybody else, but at what cost?
Exactly. And that's what, you know, if we look at quadrant 2 and, you know, if we add into that, you know, training other people, you know, so much of what we hold on to ourselves could be done by someone else if we let go of the reins.
And he does talk about that there.
He does, yeah.
And that's the thing. It's easy if I do it myself because I'll do it right and they won't do it. But
instead of politely saying, no, I can't do this, but I can show you where to get help to do it yourself, or I can recommend someone that may be able to help you with that. We don't have to, you know, no doesn't have to be rude.
No, that's right. That's exactly right. So, I think, delegating is one of the most important in getting your time back.
Yeah.
And getting, so you can spend that time in the non-urgent, important section. So how often, and that's what I think it's the cliche, instead of a lot of people are working in their business instead of working on their business. So they're they're busy in it and they're doing a lot of the stuff, but the business isn't getting bigger or growing or if they lose those people that they're servicing, they've got nothing else, because they're not working on the business to get it better, to grow it. What other opportunities are out there? How can we get better? What, you know, all that, what you need to when you're working on your business. How is the business going? How can we improve policies, procedures, all that sort of jazz that is important, but we're too busy working in the business that we're going into the, it's urgent. I have to put out that fire. You know, I have to take that call. I'm the one, they want to speak to me. I can do that. You know, we've all heard it before. There, because you can't say no, or you can't give over the reins.
Yeah, all stories we're telling ourselves.
Yeah, and again, and we were talking about that before too, is getting clear on that vision. So, you know, what is it that you want, or what's the end goal for that day, or what's that task that you need to achieve?
Yeah. And so in that not urgent but important, you know, writing our personal mission statement.
Yeah.
You know, if we haven't done that is an urgent, well, not urgent, but an important, because once we do that, it's easier to actually know what comes next, what's important on the priority chain.
Yeah. And that, again, it's that guiding light, it's that plan, it's your plan of house, isn't it? Analogy of a house, obviously, because it's something we can all relate to. But at the end, you're going to get a good solid house if you're in quadrant 2. But you can imagine if your builder is in quadrant 1 and quadrant 3 all the time, do you think you'd be confident in that builder? You'd be confident in the house that you're working on? If they're in crisis mode, what is going on that house?
Yeah, I don't know there'd be such a great result there. No.
Yeah, it's an interesting way, and it's a good way of looking at your time and how you're spending your time, and what tasks you're spending on to achieve the ultimate goal that you want to achieve. Yeah,
for sure. And one of the phrases that's in here that I just thought I'd share was, effective people are not problem minded, they're opportunity minded.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. I think I highlighted that myself.
Yeah. Now, did we want to go into the plan that that he shares within habit 3?
And I'm apologising for all you guys out there, guys and girls, that pedantic with spelling, because I'm not sure I was writing quickly and I couldn't see half of it, so I apologise for those who are OCD on that.
I think we get the picture. We could make it out.
That's it. So,
okay, so this is a template from what he shares in the book. And what I really loved about this was the roles, where looking at the roles you play in your life. So whether that is, you as an individual, you as a parent and a spouse, you as a manager or a leader, whatever your hats might be in the workplace, what are the roles? And they could even be to the extent of, daughter or grandmother or whatever it might be. So, having those roles and then attaching the goals to it. So, if you're a grandmother, the goal might be that, every Monday afternoon I pick the grandkids up from school. That could be the goal. And then, as an individual, it could be drafting your mission statement and then setting aside, 2 hours on Sunday afternoon to do that. So, looking at your roles and then breaking down your week as to what you want to commit to in each of those roles, I thought was a lovely way of making sure we take care of all areas of our lives.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's the thing, once you sort of see the roles that you have, and how are you attending to those roles and making sure that you're putting those things in first. So your non-negotiables kind of in those, on a Monday, I know that I'm picking up the grandkids at 3 o'clock from school, and I'm until 6 o'clock or whatever it might be. So anything that comes up with that, I have to say no, or I need to get such and such done by 3 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. So that to me is a really great way of looking at our weeks.
Yeah, that's a good little, it's a good little template, isn't it? So
it is a really good template. So that we just came across that on Google. I was saying to Nikki, I'm going to create myself one in Google Drive and and start using it. Yeah. Because I think that'll be a great way to keep some structure.
Yeah, and so you can have your appointments and set that time aside. Yeah.
So that was about all I got from habit 3. I think, sorry, there was one other thing. So with looking at long-term organisation, we're looking at, what our mission is, what the roles are and what the goals are. And then on a weekly organisational point, we're looking at the roles, the goals and the plan, and we're scheduling and delegating.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, it was really clear, like the way that was set out. And then just to finish off, living it, habit 1 says you're the programmer.
Yep.
Habit 2 says write the program, and habit 3 says run the program.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I liked that
analogy.
Computer analogy, yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. So you are the programmer, you write the program, and then you run the program.
Yeah.
So this is sort of giving you the tools to get the, to make those steps and to prioritize, to get where you want to get to, so because sometimes it's a bit of the how now, and to take action into that. So it's a good tool.
It is a great tool, and reassuring the Scratching Records members that they don't have to do any of this alone. There's experts in the community, and there's the Facebook group that don't think that you have to work through anything on your own. We're all here for you.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what it is. If you have a question, shoot it in the group, or shoot me an email, or DM me. Or Colleen, or whatever it is, and just ask some questions. And go, oh, well, I like that, or I'm a bit confused here, or how would I do this? That's what we're here for. So we want it to be, we want everyone to be winning. Yep, it's a win-win. I think that's one of the habit 4. But habit 4 is think win-win. So a good one as well, because I always think if you can have a win-win scenario, it makes things a hell of a lot easier. Exactly. So we'll go into that next week. Have a good rest of your week, groupies. Remember to scratch that record whenever you can, and we will talk to you next week. See you later, everyone. Bye.